CSC Show Control Tutorial 9 Slideshow Control. Okay, as I mentioned, we can use MIDI commands to control a laptop that's doing slide projections. But let's take a look at the setup first before we do this. Now, if I'm using an internal MIDI connection, which I can, and then I can have my show control software and my lighting software operating on the same computer. Unfortunately, CSC Show Control, the LE version, which I'm using, only allows me to have one MIDI output device. So I can't output MIDI internally and then also output it externally. So when I actually do this in the theater, I have to do it as external outputs. So this is my typical setup for CSC Show Control. So my show control software is here, connected by USB to an audio box USB. So this is going to output my audio signals to my amplifiers and speakers in the theater, and it also outputs the MIDI signal. So then I have a physical MIDI cable connected to a fast lane MIDI interface. USB connects that to my lighting software, which is running on a laptop. And you don't need a really high power laptop to run some of this lighting software. Just a medium laptop or an old used laptop running like Windows XP up to Windows 10 will do the job. So I have my lighting software on this laptop, and then I'll connect it by either a USB DMX device, or it's more popular today to the ArtNet node. So what the ArtNet is, I'm going to connect by Cat5 to this through either a switch box, or the ArtNet node can actually be anywhere in the theater connected to your network via Wi-Fi. Just as long as you have a Cat5 plugged into it and you're going from like a wireless router into the ArtNet node. And then from the ArtNet node, you'd actually physically connect your DMX cables going to your lights. So that's becoming more popular because this ArtNet node can actually be placed closer to the lighting and get a DMX cable coming right off of that, as long as somehow you can get a Cat5 into this ArtNet coming from a wireless router. Alright, so that's going to run my lighting setup. I'm going to have a MIDI out cable coming from this MIDI interface over to another MIDI interface connected by USB to my slideshow computer. So that's going to be sending MIDI signals to this one, and then this will be, of course, connected to a projector or some kind of a pixel screen, however you're going to do that. So, and the MIDI signals will be simply passed along. Any MIDI signals that are sent downstream that this computer does not recognize will just simply be passed along. And actually, there's a button on this interface that says through, and any MIDI signals that come in and are going to this computer can also be passed along to this one. Anything that it doesn't need, it'll just ignore, and same thing here. Any commands that this does not need will just simply be ignored. Typically, I would be sending MIDI on channel 1 to this computer for software instructions. And then I'd be sending MIDI on channel 2 to this computer over here for instructions on what to do. Now, what we need to do, since most slideshow software does not understand MIDI signals, we need to use a piece of helper software to convert from MIDI to actually key presses, and we're going to go over that in a second. But before that, I just want to remind you, using this helper software, you have to use hexadecimal MIDI code for that software. So here we are back at this hexadecimal MIDI conversion chart again, and you'll see that as I'm typing code in here that you have to understand that the decimal value for 0 is 00, up to 9 makes sense, but then once we get to 10, it's 0A, 11 is 0B, 12 is 0C, and so on. So you might want to grab a copy of this chart. You can find it anywhere on the internet. Just Google MIDI hexadecimal conversion table, and you can get a copy, print it out, and just keep it alongside of you so that that's handy. And we'll show you why you need that in just a second here. So I have some of my MIDI commands here, but let's talk about our helper software. So the helper software that we're going to use has to be on the laptop where the slide projection software is. And that slide projection software has to be by itself. You can't put the lighting software and the slide projection software on the same computer because the slide projection software has to be the currently selected program in order for it to run, so it doesn't play nice with other programs on the computer. So typically I just have my slide projection software on a separate laptop. Again, it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. Most slide projection software programs will run very easily on laptops that aren't really that powerful. So the helper software we're going to use that's going to convert MIDI commands to keystroke commands is called Boem. And we're going to bring this up here. It's Boem's Midi Translator Classic. Now when this starts, you're going to notice that there is a nag screen down here that will count down. They allow for non-commercial use for this if you're using it for a non-profit. And you just have to wait for the nag screen to count down, and then you would click on OK. Now, once you've been using this, you click on OK. If it disappears after you click on OK, check over here in your taskbar in the corner. It's probably there. Right click and then simply click Show. Alright, so I've already put in a couple conversions in here. And basically, we set this up. First of all, the MIDI in has to be the MIDI coming in. So on my laptop computer, it's going to show up as the fast lane MIDI interface. I'm just not recording from my laptop computer right now. I'm recording from my mainframe, so that's why the fast lane doesn't show up here. But from my fast lane, so just the MIDI in is all we need. I'm going to add another translation here to show you how they work. So when you first start this up, you won't have anything. Just click on New, give it a name, and then click on Plus to start adding translators. And we'll just show you how easy it is to add a translator. So I'm down here, I'm going to click Plus. I'm going to give this a name. We're going to call it Slide 8, which I don't have a Slide 8 in my presentation, but I'll just do that to show you. Since that is highlighted, I'll click on the Edit pen. And here's where we have to edit our messages. Now, my incoming message is going to be my MIDI message that I am receiving. I like to use program change messages because then I don't have to bother with a note on and note off command. So the program change command in MIDI is the letter C. All right, I'm going to be sending this on MIDI channel 2, which is actually 1 in hexadecimal. Then I'm going to type a space. Now I need this to be program change message number 8, so I'm going to type 08. And immediately it will pop up here and will tell you program change #2 means this is going to be put out on channel 2, which is exactly what we want it to do, because channel 1's being sent to the lighting computer and channel 2's being sent to the PowerPoint computer. And this 8 means that we're going to be sending a program change 8 message. Now we move over to the outgoing tab, click on that, and you select keystroke emulation. I simply click in here and press 8 and enter. On my slide presentation computer, when I type 8 enter, it's going to go to slide 8. If I type 1 enter, it's going to go to slide 1. If I type 2 enter, it's going to go to slide 2. So I actually have it set up. Program change 2 goes to slide 2, program change 3 goes to slide 3, and so on in there. And that just kind of keeps them organized for what I'm going to do. So then I simply say apply, and I can close that. And now you can see the message here. If I send a MIDI program change on channel 2, a MIDI program change 8, which is a 08 in hexadecimal, it's going to tell my slide presentation computer to press the 8 and then the enter key, which will bring up slide 8. Now, the place where it gets a little bit crazy, remember when you get to slide 10 now, you have to start using hexadecimal. Let's just do that as a for instance. I'm going to add another translator here and say slide 10. Now I'm going to edit it. All right, my incoming message, the message, MIDI message coming in. C for program change. Still 1. C1 means program change on MIDI channel 2. Space. Now I'm going to type in 0A. and you'll see that it is program change 10 because we have to use hexadecimal language here. So now you can see while you'll want to have your hexadecimal chart near you, if we want to send program change 10, that's 0A in hex. Then I go over to my outgoing message here and I do keystroke emulation. I do 10, enter, and say apply, and I'll close this up. So if I send a program change on channel 2, program change 10, it's going to press the 1, 0, and enter keys on my slide presentation laptop. I am showing you that on my mainframe, but that's actually residing on my slide presentation laptop. That's where that Boem translator program has to be. Let's bring back up our show control. So then the show control messages are easy to do. Here I did slide 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm already done them for you, but I can bring it up just to show you. I'll double click on the MIDI slide 2, and then you can see the command here. It's my slideshow computer, which if I bring up my MIDI output setup, you'll see that I'm doing my audio box USB, which is going to be sent over to the fast lane ports. It's channel 2, which is my slideshow. And what I did do is checked here, I checked PC0, so I want to count from program change 0. So if I bring up a program change 2 and I assign that to slide 2, I know that they're going to work hand in hand. I'm not getting confused between program change 2 sending the wrong message because I'm not counting from 0, I'm counting from 1, okay? So recommendation is make sure you check the program change 0 box here so you won't get confused as to what program change messages you are sending. I click accept. So here we are, slide 2, and I can see the command here. If I highlight it, it's a program change 2. We don't need anything in this box here. And then I just put in a comment, this is for slide 2. And then if I progress down the list here, you can see slide 3. Same thing, it's slideshow, that's channel 2, program change 3, as far as that goes. Slide 4, similar thing, program change 4. If you do run into some issues with this not going to the correct slide that you're expecting, it's probably because you did not select program change 0. That will cause a lot of confusion because you can count from 0 to 127 or 1 to 128. Make sure you check the 0 box so that you're counting from 0 to 127. Okay, and to actually show you this working, here we have my webcam pointing at my slide presentation laptop screen, and here's our slide control up here. Now, typically what I'll do is I'll have the slide projection software start with a black slide, a blackout slide. And then I can progress through my slides. I can put blackout slides anywhere in between here. So if I need like a slide and then a blackout, slide and blackout, or you can actually just jump around using your MIDI commands. If the blackout slide is always going to be slide 1, you can have a MIDI command to jump back to slide 1 blackout and do slides 2 and 3 and so on. So anyway, that's our, imagine this being a blackout slide, and here's our slide 2. I'm going to send the message. And you'll see that the slide presentation computer jumps to slide 2, and then slide 3, and then slide 4, and slide 5, and slide 6, and slide 7. And just to show you, you can jump around to any slide. I'm going to highlight 4 and hit that. We're back to 4. I'm going to highlight 2. So you can basically jump around wherever you want to be. Slide 6, go slide 6. So this works very well, and it's a great way. And don't forget, with the cues here, then we can also have in these cues a lighting command, a slideshow command, and also an audio file, all in the same cue playing back at the same time. I'm showing you them separate here, but you can combine that. You can have a light cue, a slide cue, and an audio cue all in the same cue at the same time.